Our scripture today actually is with images. And I will tell you that the print is very, very small for me. So I will do my best to help read this scripture to you. Luke 1, 5 through 25, 39 through 45, and 57 through 80. In the time of King Herod, there was a priest named Zechariah who was married to Elizabeth, and both of them loved and obeyed God, but they had not been able to have children. They were now both too old to have a family. Once, when Zechariah's division of priests was on duty at the temple, they cast lots to see who would go into the temple and burn incense in the inner sanctuary. The lots were cast, and Zechariah was chosen. While all the assembled worshipers were praying outside, Zechariah made his way into the inner sanctuary of the temple. He burnt incense on the altar. The smoke rising was a picture of the prayers of God's people rising up to him. Suddenly, an angel of the Lord appeared, standing on the right side of the altar. "Do not be afraid," the angel said. "God has heard your prayer, and Elizabeth will bear you a son. You are to name him John. You will both celebrate his birth with great joy. Your son John will be one of the Lord's great men and will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before he is born. He must never touch wine or alcohol." The angel explained that John would help many Jews to turn back to God. "He will be a man with the spirit and power of Elijah, who will prepare people for the arrival of the Messiah," the angel announced. "He will get people ready for God." Zechariah replied, "Do you expect me to believe this? I'm an old man, and my wife is an old woman." And the angel said, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the very presence of God. It was he who sent me to you with this good news. And now, because you haven't believed me, you will be unable to speak until the child is born, for my words will certainly come true at the proper time." Meanwhile, the crowds outside were waiting for Zechariah to appear and wondered why he was taking so long. When he finally came out, he tried to speak and explain what had happened, but he could not make a sound. So he used gestures instead, and the crowd understood from the signs he made that he must have seen a vision. He remained on duty at the temple, unable to speak, until his duties were over and he could return home. Soon afterwards, Elizabeth, his wife, became pregnant and went in seclusion for 5 months. "How kind the Lord is," she exclaimed, "to give me a child." When the baby was born, just as the angel had promised, it was a boy. News of the birth spread quickly to her neighbors and relatives of how kind the Lord had been to Elizabeth. Everyone rejoiced. When the baby was 8 days old, all friends and relatives came for the circumcision ceremony. They all assumed the baby would be named Zechariah after his father. But Elizabeth said, "No, he must be named John." It was the name the angel had told Zechariah to give his son. "What?" they exclaimed. "There's no one in all your family by that name." So they asked Zechariah, talking to him with gestures. Zechariah motioned for something to write on. To everyone's surprise, he wrote, "His name is John." Instantly, Zechariah could speak again, and he began praising God. Everyone was amazed at the news of what had happened through the Judean hills, and all they asked was, "I wonder who this child will turn out to be, for the Lord is with him in a special way." The word of the Lord. You know, the story of Elizabeth and Zechariah is one of my very favorites. I just absolutely love it. And Zechariah wasn't paying careful attention to that angel. He had stopped listening, and instead he was speaking. Now here's a story about a town that started listening. The night the town held its breath. It happened in a little town not far from here, one of those places where everybody knows everybody, and news travels faster than the wind. But for a long time, the only news anyone heard was really Nothing at all. Just noise, just jabbering, until the noise stopped. It started with Mr. Henderson, the retired band director. He was the one who always had something to say about music, weather, sports, politics, whether you wanted to hear it or not. One Sunday, he just simply stopped chattering. People thought maybe he was sick or upset. He said he was fine. He just wasn't speaking much. A week later, Miss Clara, the owner of the most gossipy cafe in town, where Miss Clara made it a point to know everyone's business, began responding to juicy questions with a shrug and a quiet smile instead of her usual running commentary. Then the vet, old Doc Willard, who always had a story to share when he went on his rounds, all of a sudden seemed to run out of stories. It was kind of strange. At the farms, they always offered Doc Willard a cup of coffee and a bun so they could hear the latest story. But lately, nothing. And they weren't the only ones who had gone quiet. It was all over town. Soon this level of quiet became the talk of the town. Why is everyone going quiet? What are we waiting for? But no one had an answer. Now, it wasn't fearful silence. It was more like the silence right before sunrise, a hush that feels like breath being held, like something important is about to happen, but no one knows what. Then one Saturday morning, as the town gathered for breakfast and gossip at Miss Clara's, a sound broke the stillness. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. Just the clear, bright voice of Miss Clara. "I think something good is coming." Everyone turned. Miss Clara didn't explain. She just said it again, eyes shining like she knew she had a secret. "I think something good is coming." And suddenly, it made sense. The silence had been a kind of listening, a deep, expectant listening, making space to hear something new. In Luke's gospel, the people of Israel have been living in a long silence as well. Not just the silence of individuals, but the silence of centuries without a prophet. And then in a quiet temple room with an old priest named Zechariah, God broke the silence with an angel sharing words of hope. And today we're invited into that same story, listening deeply so we ourselves can become messengers of hope. It was a special day for Zechariah at the temple. It was his priestly turn to make sure everything was done properly inside the temple and in good order. But it turned into something quite different when an angel showed up at the altar. Angels appearing or the breaking in of the divine into our ordinary lives is kind of a theme in Luke. The appearance of an angel in the first chapter signals that this is an extraordinary story of divine events, and yet it's set in the midst of very, very ordinary people. I mean, Zechariah is an ordinary priest, but he will be responsible for the raising of a son who's the messenger for the Messiah. What a huge responsibility for Zechariah and Elizabeth. It's not just a baby. It's so much more than that. And it all seems so crazy that Zechariah rejects and doubts an angel from God. And because of the postulating, because he opened his mouth and he spoke instead of listening to God's messenger, he is struck mute. He's now forced to listen instead of act or react. Now, this silence is not necessarily punishment as much as formation, a season where words are paused so listening can deepen, because he and Elizabeth have been called to do a task that's quite extraordinary. And the message here is that one person can and does make a difference, no matter how insignificant our contribution seems. And God chose Zechariah and Elizabeth to be the parents of John the messenger. Nothing for them would ever be the same again. Have you ever had a moment in your life after which you knew nothing would ever be the same? Have you? Now, these types of situations, particularly ones that bring great change, can make us feel hopeless and lost. In the midst of great change, hope, though, is always, always a welcome thing. Because Advent can remind us that God makes us ready for whatever unknown may come our way and calls us to be messengers of more hope in an ever-changing world. And today, to talk about that a little bit, we have a special guest, Laura Frederick from the Vine Pastoral Counseling Center. Now, Laura serves the Vine as the co-clinical director and as a therapist. Laura, come on up, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's on.
Are you on?
Can y'all hear me? Yes. Okay, good deal.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me today.
I want to make sure you're clear of your
Yeah.
mic. There you go. Can you all hear her? Is that good?
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, this story seems so perfect to start our Advent. I mean, Zechariah and the hope that they're given of having a child. But thinking about God making him ready through silence really isn't something I had thought about. I always thought that his silence, his muteness, was a punishment, but maybe not. And so in your practice, do you see silence as sometimes being therapeutic or perhaps could help a person to grow?
Yeah, I definitely see that. I think that in silence, the external world is really loud, but silence allows us to be more present with our internal world and more receptive to what God might be saying or might be doing.
It's sometimes hard to be silent, though,
Yes.
for people like me.
Yes.
Okay. Can you all hear her in the back? Okay.
It's not turned on.
It's not turned
It's
on?
not turned on? Oh. Let's see here.
It's on.
The little green light is on.
It's on. Can you not hear her?
I can hold it closer to my face if that is,
It's not showing
if that's useful. Or I can just talk real loud.
Yeah. This is even better. Look at this. We've got alternates.
There we go.
Oh, look at that. Okay. Fantastic. So I was saying that you said you thought that silence, let's repeat that again. So silence can be therapeutic?
It can be therapeutic. The external world is very loud,
Oh,
but
yeah.
when we're silent, we get to focus more on our internal world and be present with ourselves and listen for what God might be doing or might be saying instead of letting kind of all those external things drown all that out.
And it can be a busy time. It can be busy. Even in our
Yes.
heads, we can be busy.
Yes.
And we can go like this. And so silence is sometimes hard to achieve. Now, Zechariah, when he is ready and he has listened, he might be ready to do the job God gave him, but it had nothing to do with him being a priest. See, we're just ordinary people here, aren't we? Just seeking God's will for our lives, God's call in our lives. And as we approach the holidays, we're reminded that tough times are all around us. Just an example, the care center needing the toys. You know, they're asking for more food, right? And some people are grieving, and some people are going through a lot of things that we can't see. Now, in your practice, how often do you see hidden pain or hidden grief or hidden disabilities?
So often, it's easy. It can be easy to look okay on the outside while there's a lot of really heavy burdens on the inside. And the holidays are an especially difficult time. It's a time where we expect to be connected, and there's a lot of attachment pain, whether it's grief or distance or estrangement, that can get activated this time of year especially. And it may not be obvious from the outside, but it's definitely something that is on the inside this time
I
of
think
year.
so, and we see it in our congregation, we see it outside the walls, but it is hard to detect. And one of the things that I've done before is when people, this is hard, but when people ask you sometimes, are you doing okay? And we often say, oh yeah, we're fine. We're good, I'm fine. But what if you said, do you really want to know? And find a trusted person for that, right? Do you really want to know?
Yeah.
But that person has to be ready to listen.
Yes.
And so we're so busy talking, often, we don't stop long enough to listen or to see with our hearts instead of our heads, right? Now, as a therapist, do you have any tools for us that might help us to listen better?
Yes, so I have 3 suggestions to listen and to listen well. My first suggestion would be focus. So it's easy to get distracted. There's a lot going on. So if somebody is kind of opening up, it's very important that we focus and we direct our attention towards that person. Or if it's a time where you're really multitasking and you're really divided, to say, hey, I really want to hear you out, but I need 10 minutes, so then you'll have my complete attention because I want to give you my complete attention.
Yes, yes.
So focus is very, very important as a listening skill. If you're not
Focus.
focused, you're not going to be able to receive, which is the second part that I would like to talk about.
Okay.
So when we receive, that means that if somebody's sharing, you're trying to really put yourself in their shoes, and you may have kind of that inner commentary going, but you want to kind of set that to the side
Right.
and think, okay, what is it like to be this person? What are they telling me? What's their story? And really receive what it is that they have to say without your own kind of commentary getting in the way.
I think
initially.
with girl talk, women talk particularly, there's this tendency for us when someone shares something to share something back.
Right.
There just is. There's this normal dialogue, particularly with women, to share something back. And in this instance, to hold back on that.
Right. To create a space where that kind of, whatever needs to come out can kind of come out without interruption.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Is there a third thing, too?
Yes. So after you've taken all that in, it's important. So listening isn't just not talking. So if somebody's sharing with you and you're just kind of silent, then they're going to be like, well, are you freaking out? Are you bored? Like, what's happening?
Right. The silence.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's the response. So we want to respond. And if someone's sharing something kind of vulnerable, a little formula that can be helpful is to notice one emotion that what they're sharing evokes in you. So you could say something like, well, I feel kind of sad when you're talking about how your grandkids are out in California and you wish that they were here, something like that. Name an emotion that you're feeling, and then just share some gratitude. When someone opens up, they're giving you a gift. So you can say, thank you for sharing that with me. And those two things can be helpful as you respond to what you're hearing.
Can we model that for just a moment?
Yeah.
I'm going to just give something to you. Okay. The Christmas holidays are here now, and I've been feeling really sad about my dad not being here anymore. In fact, that actually it just breaks me up about my dad not being here. Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard on Sunday nights. I always called him Sunday nights, and he's not here. And it's just really hard sometimes to be alone at Christmas.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. And I mean, I feel sad when I hear what you're saying about your dad, and it sounds like you had a really special relationship and you miss him.
Yep, I really do. Thanks for listening. See? It's a simple model, isn't it? That's really interesting how that happens. Some of the tools that you gave us, I hope everyone was listening carefully because they are really important tools. We need to kind of put our head aside sometimes and use our heart. And I think our heart can lead us. And sometimes I'm going to give another one to add to what you're saying is that when she gave us the practical tools, sometimes to stop in your mind and pray. Quick prayer. God, help me be present for this person right now.
Yes.
To set ourselves up to be ready to be able to listen to that person. Because sometimes you need that. You need to just stop and say, God, help me because I'm distracted, or because I have my own dialogue, or because I have my own busyness, whatever it is. And to say, God, be with me when I listen to this person.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think we all really are called to be messengers of hope. And by giving that listening ear, it is a message of hope, isn't it, Laura?
Yes, it sure is.
It's wonderful. So thank you so much for coming and giving us some sharing today. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. Friends, hope is not just optimism. It's participation in God's future breaking in. Because our words and our actions can prepare the way for someone else's encounter with Christ. Let me read that again. Our words and actions can prepare the way, our words and actions, for someone else's encounter with Christ. So to close our time together, I have some questions. 2 questions. And you at home, please, too. We'd love to hear your answers to these questions. So just right now, text that out. There's a text number right there. You text in your answer because we want to hear from you, too. We'd love to hear from you. You're part of our family. Where do you think that God is inviting us to listen more deeply right now? Where do you think God is inviting us to listen more deeply right now? Call it out. They're thinking. Yes. Here in our church. Because we're not here every day. So when we come, we do make connections. Listening is one of them. Very important for the people in this congregation, okay? Wherever we are. Absolutely. Wherever we are. Yes. Yes. Any place where God is inviting us to listen more deeply. In our hearts. Yes. Listen deeply in our hearts. Yes.
Our political discourse.
Our political discourse, absolutely. Yeah. Listen in our hearts. Be peace with each other. Peace with each other. Anybody else?
People who are in hurt, in need of compassion.
People who are hurt in need of compassion. Yes. Absolutely. Inviting us to listen deeply to those who are hurt and needing compassion. Yes. Or sick. Getting older. Can be hard. Right? The Huddle House.
Just summarizes
The, hu-
your experience.
the Huddle House ministry that we have. Yes, we just go and we sit and we listen. We ask questions. Sometimes we ask kind of probing questions to help them with their thoughts. And we're present, right? Just present for people. It's really, really important. Now, here's a second one that's kind of built onto that, but it's the opposite. Where is God loosening our tongues to speak courage, compassion, justice, or mercy? Where is God loosening our tongues instead of the listening mode? Where is God loosening our tongues?
In prayers.
In prayers. Oh, yes, that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Against injustices.
Against injustices. Mm-hmm. How about loosening our tongues with courage to say, to be vulnerable? When someone asks you, hey, how you doing? You say, hey, I'm fine. To take a trust, just trust and say, do you really want to know? If you're hurting, do you really want to know? And they might look at you like, what? Well, I'm having a hard time right now. Do you really want to know? And see where that leads. That takes courage, friends. And sometimes that trust might be a little bit misplaced. That's okay. You can try again to the next one. But it's a vulnerable feeling that we can give. So courageous and willing to seek compassion and have our tongues loosed on compassion for others, and maybe a little compassion to ourselves and a little self-care by saying, hey, reaching out, I'm having a tough time today. Or this isn't really a good day for me. Or I need some gnomes. I need a gnome today, right?